everybody. I hope you can hear me because I am being technologically challenged today. No video. Well, that's not my stunt double right there. That's Joe Armeanio with me, doing another one of our exciting AMAs. Say hi to everyone, Joe.
Yeah, hello everybody. I hope everybody's having a good morning or night or day, I guess, depending where they are. Morning here, but I'm ready. I got my coffee, so let's cover it. Right. We had a really great dev update this week. Video, as usual, should come out Sunday. Been a pretty crazy week in the crypto space, but yeah, that happens from time to time. Just, I don't know, man. Fun.
Oh yeah. Let's get some meme coins going on Cardano or on Ergo, right? Some more.
I don't know. People do it there. I guess one beauty of like open permissionless systems is people can do whatever they want. And one downside is people can do whatever they want, and sometimes there's a lot of sketchy nonsense that goes on. But yeah, I hope everybody manages their risks, trades well. That's fun.
And they won't. They won't. There's going to be people who are going to be like, oh my God, it just dumped to next to nothing. And I put all my money into this. Why didn't it do the same thing this other meme coin that actually went up? Yeah, it's it's kind of interesting. Like this whole space, our whole space, the blockchain space, the DeFi space, the Web3 space. I kind of think about this stuff sometimes. Traditionally, I don't know if everybody would agree with me. Like, for example, I'd say, Sam, my business partner, would not agree with me because he's into that kind of stuff. But to me, traditional banking is kind of boring. Like it was always kind of boring. I know it's fascinating to some, and I'm not saying that it's not a fascinating or an interest. Just economics aren't an interesting field. But to me, and I guess to some people, just regular banking is just not that exciting. It's just banking. It's finances. It's like, well, finances. You make money, you spend money, you borrow money, you give money back. That's basically what it is, And then you got this ecosystem where we're basically, this is a lot of this is finance based, right? A lot of this is finance, banking the unbanked. Even though I'm not very crazy, it's not too crazy about that particular saying, but because we're not really looking to be the bank, but we're making the stuff fun that traditionally is just kind of perceived to be a bunch of dudes that look like the Monopoly guy sitting somewhere in a dark room with smoking cigars and contemplating about how to proceed about. And it's now it's fun, now it's interesting, now people are really a lot more like free and having fun with assets, but then they forget that sometimes that it is real money. Like you're not, it's real money. Sometimes you make it out of nothing and it doesn't seem like real money because you put in $50 and then you hit it big on some coin and then you made like, $5,000. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Right. And then, okay, well, but it's not real money, right? It's 5,000. But then again, it's just, that's why some people just kind of don't feel it. But then if you're not careful about it, you will feel it. So yeah, just, be careful out there, guys. Don't, like this is real money. This is wealth. This is wealth. Sometimes it can be spent in something else instead of speculating on some random super volatile asset that makes no sense. Yeah, but I guess to each their own.
Yeah, I've always said that I would prefer to go to a casino because the drinks are free, right? A lot of the times I see, that's like speculative mania that crypto goes in and out of sometimes is like a game of musical chairs where, sometimes the music stops and there are no chairs. So please, manage your risks out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess we did enough. Be careful, kids. Watch out. Watch out there, kids. Talk. So let's get into some updates here. All right. So so from my end, just kind of been again continuing to work on what I've been working on the education curriculum, as well as speaking to a couple of interested VCs. I've also been kind of working with one of the other members of the EF on another potential fund list that we can potentially bring into Ergo to finance some projects. It is a slow process. It's the market is crap right now, and everybody's super cautious, and nobody really just wants to take any chances. But it is what it is, and we will overcome. But yeah, that's something that I've been paying a lot of doing a lot of work on. Also approached a couple of new exchanges and partners about Rosen. Again, it's kind of a slow process, but we are progressing with that. We actually filmed another really good episode of Ergo Pulse this weekend with none other than QX parentheses. That's going to be coming out real soon for you. Just a lot of cool stuff happening. We're keeping our heads down, but we are definitely working. So exchanges, right now, again, we have really good leads, and I am having conversations. However, there's quite a few. Well, because we are concentrating on, or I'm at least concentrating on finding an exchange that would list Ergo in the U.S. And this is a bit of a challenge due to this, the regulatory landscape of the SEC right now. So again, this is not a fast process, but we are working on it, and I mean it will get done. It's just a matter of time. How about you, Joe? What have you been up to?
Oof. I've been busy. There's been a lot going on in the ecosystem in the back end, right? A lot of community development. We've, are pushing towards the bootstrapping with NevoPaus, with the node. Dexi's coming together. There's a lot of community projects out there that are, in the process of refinement, pushing towards mainnet. So, it's one of those things where sometimes there's a lot of work behind the surface that just doesn't show up yet, but I'm pretty excited for the next couple of months. There's gonna be a lot of neat stuff coming to market.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, how about we get some questions? What do you think?
I'm ready.
Yeah, all right. We are ever ready to get to these fine questions we got out here, and we got a few. Okay. This is an interesting question. So Tamaz asks, do you consider UTXO superior to account model? Why do you think ETH chose account model? Did they see its problems? Did they find it easier and hope that it would get solved later? Why don't you tackle this one, Joe? I know you got some good thoughts about this.
Well, I think net they're different tools, right? And so then you have to ask, okay, what's the benefit trade-off, between a hammer and a drill, so to speak, right? I don't think superior is necessarily the right approach. It's just understanding the tool and what the trade-offs are. And you can say, okay, this idea of global state is, kind of interesting. But then when you get to kind of the, let's say, limitations of blockchains, and you get into this idea of scaling, you need to take local state off chain, transform it and settle it. And so, UTXO naturally kind of, overlaps well with that scaling idea of off chain scaling. It kind of comes with this potential concurrency issue, which has never really actually been that much of an issue. I know that in like 2019, I think it was Ilya was the first one to propose this idea of batching transactions off chain, settling them on chain. That is a nice way to, kind of work around the concurrency issue, but it also creates a new paradigm where it's like, okay, you have this idea of kind of like federated batchers, which are often closed source and, potentially prone to manipulation versus, having it open source and distributed. And in a way, it then becomes similar to like a type of mining, right? Where you batch and settle transactions. Hopefully there's some sort of incentive to run that. So I don't think that the concurrency thing is so much of an issue as long as the solution makes sense, right? And I think there are some solutions out there that kind of don't make sense. They're a little bit ripe for abuse or gatekeeping. So I can see why, some people in the account world wouldn't like that, but I think if it's done properly, it's just a new type of incentivized mining to get people to run off-chain infrastructure in a more distributed way, which is always good for decentralization anyway. Why do I think ETH chose the account model? I don't know. I wasn't there, right? And did they see its problem? Again, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't like to say that I knew what people were thinking at the time when I have no idea. Let's say, do they find it easier? I think for certain things it is easier. For certain things it's kind of wonky, right? Like this idea of smart contract based tokens versus native tokens. I definitely think in that sense, extended UTXO is better. They don't have the sign the body concurrency stuff, but there are solutions to that, right? It's not as though, let's say, one is good, one is bad. I think that kind of black and white thinking is just a little silly. I tend to like the smart contract model and extended UTXO. I think it's somewhat, refined and that, I don't know, has a certain beauty versus things calling other things. But, the truth is, if it's done well, the account model can work well, right? If the extended UTXO model is done well, it can work well. So at the end of the day, it's not always the tool, it's the person behind the tool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of breaking it down. I see this narrative a lot in crypto, where I guess it's another one of our kind of things about the crypto ecosystem and the blockchain ecosystem in general, and that is we get a little bit kind of I guess not cultish, but a little bit too like that's my team and that's your team and my team is better than your team type of attitude. And in some cases it's true, because there definitely are some just shit coins and shit chains and VC pump and dumps out there that deserve to be shed on. But a lot of times, it's just like you said, it's different tools. Is proof of work superior to proof of stake? Is proof of stake superior to proof of work? Not really. I mean, it's just different tools. There's a way to. It's just different tools and different applications and different scenarios in which these things are utilized. So it's and again, like you said, it's about who uses it and how they utilize it. What was it? Alex was saying that what is it? Somebody that took forked a chain. What do they fork Bitcoin or one of the earlier chains and just didn't even change the names or something like that, and then they just basically just crapped out and did whatever they want with it. Yeah, it's all about the flavor behind the technology that makes a difference a lot of time. All right, let's get to another question here. All right. So, no, actually, we have another follow from Tamaz. Do you think RSV holders will profit from excellent growth of SigUSD usage? What do you think about that one, Joe?
Oh, well, I did a hackathon project that I haven't quite finished around, proposed updates to SigUSD. I didn't design it, number one. So I kind of have to say that there are some choices there that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, but I think that potentially, yeah. But you also have to remember that RSV holders are not on the same team, right? If there's profitability in a position, then it's a race to the exit, as in most things, right? So I think that in a way, in understanding like the dynamic in game theory there, start by recognizing RSV holders are not on the same team, right? You all have your individual position that's either in profit or loss. And if you're in profit, there is a potential that if you don't realize that, other people will realize that and then kind of drain some erg from the treasury that your RSV represents, and then you're not in profit, right? So I think that it's dangerous in a way to have the assumption that RSV holders are all on the same team. You're not. But yeah, potentially, if people don't, let's say, redeem SigUSD and it becomes something that circulates for a longer period of time, I think there's kind of an assumption you can make that the value of RSV and ERG in the treasury won't be redeemed by SigUSD because it's busy out on the market. But again, you're not on the same team as other holders. I think that's really important to understand here.
Yep. Good answer. Okay, well, let's move on to another question. And this is actually a good question. So we got storage rent coming up. So while storage, here's the question. While storage rent is a real positive, I feel like the team has negative connotations for people. The term has negative connotations for people. Do you think there is merit in looking to rename it so people new to Ergo don't see it negatively? I mean, and again, I'll let you tackle this one, Joe, because I'm sure you got your own thoughts about this. But it is what it is. It is storage rent. It's just a matter of understanding what it means. There's always going to be somebody who misunderstands the context of a term, and will be upset about something. I mean, the Japanese is a great example of it. There's some English words or some Western words that makes their way into Japanese, but then they kind of mix it up and make it into their own, and so it actually completely changes the meaning. Like, for example, in Japanese they would say sign, but what they actually mean, you have to write your full name. And it's not actually signatures. Write your full name. Another thing is note. Take a note means a notebook, and not just writing a note. I mean, it's just an example. It's to me it's weird. To somebody else, to me it confuses me. Like, what do you mean sign? You don't mean sign. You mean write my name in capital letters. So it's just I don't think personally that it has a negative connotation. I think it's very straight to the point. It's important to understand the context of it. And I mean, what else would you rename it to? I mean, I don't know. Well, what do you think about this, Joe?
Well, it's hard to say if there's value in that. Like, okay, my personal opinion is that sometimes there's a lot of repackaging and marketing in the crypto space that's just complete fucking nonsense. Where, you take something that already exists and you give it a new fancy name, and everyone's like, oh, look at the new fancy thing, right? You'll see that. But does it, actually, kind of connect and potentially, I guess, get end consumers to look and investigate and learn? Maybe. So, I'm not always the best marketing guy. So I would leave that to the community ultimately. I think storage rent is a very, very, very interesting and long-term a net positive thing. We come to market with this unique idea, and you have to remember as well, storage rent is an adjustable parameter. So it can potentially be turned off, or, I guess at some point in the future, if it needed to, it could even be raised, right? It's an adjustable option for miners. But it's this idea that chain state is kind of a scarce resource, right? You're getting, chains that are bloating at really, 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 really rapid rates. And that's something that the end consumer doesn't necessarily see, right? Like if you were to say, okay, we're going to turn up Ergo's block speed to the maximum, right? You're also growing the state of the chain more rapidly. And then it kind of creates this long-term question, who's going to store all of this data, right? Now, what storage rent allows miners to do, and you got to remember that Ergo kind of came from this idea of solo mining, is to concentrate the net value per byte of the state of the chain, where, you may have, let's look right now, how many meme coins have been created in the last week across the crypto ecosystem, and how many of them will have value in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, versus how much of it will just be basically stagnant space that somebody somewhere is supposed to store indefinitely for free, right? It's kind of like spam filtering in a way. So I think that there's a lot of neat incentives there. It does kind of encourage crypto to be used more as like peer-to-peer cash versus this idea, buy it and then put it on a shelf and then hope it, gains value, but versus it, kind of creates this natural incentive for there to be velocity in money where it moves, right? If everybody took their dollars and just said, okay, I'm going to take $1 and store it and never use it, the economy wouldn't be so good. So I think there's a lot of neat primitives there. I think long-term in terms of, economic incentive for miners, it's a really, really, really interesting vector, especially if we start to think about how storage rent and, potential TVL could actually allow value to, instead of be potentially locked for eternity, actually kind of pass through the system and actually create future incentives for miners. It's a fascinating idea. I think we can build a lot of cool stuff on long term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, you said it. Anyway, let's go to another question. Okay, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Here's a question for Rosen, although we are going to do a Rosen Ergo Pulse really soon. There are a few questions here. So would it be possible to bridge Monero with Rosen? What do you think, Joe? Would it be possible?
Yeah, I mean, Monero's bridged to other blockchains, so I don't see why, technically it's not possible. I'm actually a big fan of having privacy coins involved in bridging. Now, so, I guess sometimes it depends, what kind of signatures they support. But, the idea of having, you're already seeing that in a way with kind of some in the Bitcoin community where they're using Monero or other privacy empowered coins to kind of obfuscate their gains or transactions and kind of move into the gray and back, right? I think there's a lot of value in privacy. Now, potentially, I'd love to see that build out more on Ergo itself, but having kind of the privacy cash oriented coins, is a big value benefit. It's a nice tool to give users. So I've always liked Monero, right? I think that in terms of like the actual push for P2P adoption of cash is probably one of the leading communities. I think that it's very nice when you get privacy oriented projects because you know where they stand on such things, right? And they're kind of always, I don't know, let's just say embodied this idea of kind of FU money versus you have others that are like, hey, let's, try to kind of behave. And, the Monero community just doesn't, right? They do their own thing. And I respect that because it's like, I don't know, they hold their position, right? And there's a lot of things in the space where, push comes to shove. I don't really know where their principles are. And if I don't know where someone's principles are, I can't see sustainable value there. I can't trust that. So I like privacy projects. I always have. That's actually, like, if you look at historically my interest in crypto, that's kind of, I guess, something that's always fascinated me.
Yeah, and it is also good to be able to bridge two privacy projects without actually being a privacy project. I mean, just as far as in general, what Ergo is, as we always say, Ergo is not a privacy coin. It is a blockchain with robust privacy tooling.
Yeah, we support specific features on the application level. Just that simple. But yeah, it's kind of like a type of stable coin that's not necessarily pegged to anything, but it can be a very useful cash-like product that, has a benefit beyond like your traditional stable coin, where it's, isn't going to be blacklisted or tracked or any of this other fun stuff that we're seeing. It's hard to predict where some projects are going to take that and even where their principles are aligned even is, if they have any. I don't know. So that's why I like Monero. It's predictable, good community.
Yeah, it's predictably anti-establishment, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about with Monero. All right, let's see. This is actually here's a good. It's not a question, but it's kind of a good point from Dig Dug. Most people don't realize how minimal the storage rent amount is. And yeah, I mean, these amounts, they're minimal. And I mean, essentially, it's supposed to, and it's not going to kind of rug you, but it's supposed to kind of prevent I mean, one of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but really, I think one of the underlying thinking behind this was to kind of try to discourage what's happening with Bitcoin, where you got this, millions or tens of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin just gone somewhere and lost wallets and, in inaccessible places, out of circulation. In fact, how much Bitcoin is out of circulation right now, Joe? It's some pretty significant amount, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it's growing. It's, what is the latest tally? I don't know. But it is true that, you do get this idea of dust, which is basically where the value in one UTXO can't pay for a change of state, right? It can't pay for a transaction fee. So then it's just like frozen forever. Then you also have this idea of people who will, lose their keys. And so then it's just like locked and lost economic value. And it's always impossible to know, did the person lose their key or did they just, I don't know, bury their seed phrase in the forest that'll be dug up at some point in the future and someone will use it or recover it or whatever. Ergo is a little unique in that sense where it, can't really be destroyed, right? It just recycles itself. I think that idea of creating like this perpetual mining subsidy for security is really, really interesting and proof of work. I know that there's a lot of speculation what is going to happen, once the security subsidy from the block reward and like Bitcoin gets too low to where, perhaps the price doesn't change to reflect, the economic, I guess, payout needed for chain security. And so this idea that the chain can recycle lost or stuck value is really fascinating to me, because it seems like a pretty realistic way to create a long-term security subsidy, as well as potential, off-chain services like batching. But, I go to where we kind of open this. Not really a fan of closed source batching. I think that's too much of an attack vector. I get that, maybe it can be federated and people can be put in like a private legal situation where they have to behave or they have some consequence. But, that kind of gets us back to a trusted model versus a trustless model. And the ideal is that these are open, permissionless systems where anybody can run the infrastructure that they need or want and see it and participate, right? That's kind of the point.
Yeah. And I mean, again, all good points. And, it's also important to understand that you're not really inflicting any kind of serious, I guess, impedance to people who do want to, go out there and take, make a paper Ergo wallet and, bury it in the woods for their kids to find 20 years later. You're not stopping. If you want to do that, you can do that. For the storage rent to eat away enough of that Ergo,
takes a long time.
Yeah, it will take a really long time. So the proportions there are just, it's completely like, if you really look at it, if you really understand it, it's really completely self-explanatory why it's there and how, I guess, non-threatening it is to people who, to anybody who actually wants to hold Ergo for, as a long-term investment. All right, let's go. Okay, here's a good one from Augustus Kent. As always, good questions. What would prevent miners increasing storage rent and transaction fees to increase their own profitability? What counterbalances the miners' ability to modify things purely for their own benefit? I'll let you start with this one, Joe, because again, you.
I would say the first thing is common sense, right? Like, let's say I had a restaurant. Okay, I'm participating in a market. I have competitors. And so if I were to say, hey, I'm going to raise the price of hamburgers to $1 million. And so if I sell a hamburger, I'll be rich. No one will come. Like they would destroy the economic environment that they support and benefit from. So miners have to balance that with demand, right? Because if there's no demand and they just decide to raise fees, raise prices, guess what? Nobody's going to come. Right, it's going to kind of kill their own economy. Now, one thing that kind of also, I guess, will act as a buffer for a lack of common sense is this idea that there needs to be kind of a majority consensus in order to modify parameters, right? And so you have to go out and get the mining community to support changes. They'll have to update their reference client on their node if they're solo mining, or get the pool that they're mining to create those changes. And, that kind of creates the friction of, I guess, some kind of democratic or delegated process. It's a little bit different now with pools than, I guess the original intent was a lot more representative in terms of like democracy / hash power. But the truth is it's against business logic, right? If I'm going to invest in hardware and I'm going to be mining Ergo, and let's say I do have some incentive to actually care enough to try to influence the parameters of the system, which, okay, you can make the argument there's a lot of miners out there that don't really care about Ergo, and they'll hop on when it's convenient. But luckily, the benefit of that is they aren't going to vote. right? they'll like sign onto a pool somewhere that is voting, but I don't think they care enough to try to modify things, because that will take a certain amount of work, right? So then it leaves miners that are more invested in like the long-term health of the ecosystem to, let's say, modify some parameters to try to create the optimal economic environment. It's really actually quite fascinating looking at this Bitcoin stuff right now. Ergo has the ability to modify block sizes, right? So if the mempool were to ever have, I don't even know what Bitcoin's at, 400,000, transactions, miners could potentially vote to increase block space and, absorb some of that mempool pressure. And then on the other side, if none of those transactions end up working out and they're kind of spam, at some point, miners could use storage rent to recycle it from the network. So they get potentially paid on both sides. I really like that supply side dynamic of adjustable fees. I know that probably due to ETH's gas fees, like there was this general hate for miners for a long time, like, hey, it's too expensive. But, that's kind of a product of running everything on chain, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess, again, you said it. I mean, the bottom line here is this business. Why are our eggs a few bucks and not a few $100? Why do things cost as much as they do? And yeah. I mean, things that are sustainable cost as much as they do because of demand, right? And like you said, it's a business decision. So anybody who is this would have to be a coordinated, conscious business decision that several businesses that are in the business of securing the blockchain, which is how they make money, would vote and say, you know what, let's just increase it a whole bunch, and maybe people will not say, screw these guys, I'm going to go somewhere else where it actually makes sense to do stuff. Everybody's talking about Ethereum, ETH gas fees. I mean, really, the only reason why that is tolerated is because of the size of the chain.
There's demand. There's demand.
Yeah.
Like that's
the thing. That's the thing, because somebody will pay it. Somebody will pay it. That's why it's there. If nobody would pay it, it would not be there.
I hate to people. I see a lot of systems out there where it's like, hey, we have an infinite capacity to scale for our 10 users, right? I think that with Ergo, the long-term goal is to be a settlement system, but there has to be demand enough that people will take the reduction in cost for kind of the security trade-offs that layer 2s offer, right? There's some different assumption there, not to say that it can't be done securely and work well, but you do get trade-off with assumptions for a lower fee environment, but there probably needs to be demand, right? Otherwise, it's like building a massive highway in the middle of nowhere, right? There has to be traffic.
Yeah, and of course, and on the other hand, again, I'm going to bring up something that's close to the business that I'm doing on Ergo, and that is the business with Palmyra and minting fees, right? So people ask me this question. So right now, the minting fees are really low on Ergo. What would happen if they got raised? What would happen? It's all about business decision, right? So number one, I'm hoping to put so much transaction through the chain, through Ergo, that the miners will see that it is to their benefit to not raise minting fees to a point of where it would not make financial sense for me to continue minting as many NFTs on Ergo, right? At some point, minting fees probably will go up. Do I think that in a couple of years or whatever, if the miners decide to raise minting fees because we got more traffic through Ergo, we got more demand, so we decided to kind of raise fees a little bit. Do you think they're going to raise fees? At that point, I'm hoping, and we're hoping to be moving, tens or maybe hundreds of millions of dollars of business through Palmyra, if not more. Do you think that the miners are going to say, you know what, these guys that are bringing so much traffic to Ergo, fuck them. Let's raise fees on them and get as much money as possible out of them. I seriously doubt that. I seriously doubt that will happen, because that would be self-destructive. That would not be a sustainable business decision. And that's why I believe that a chain like Ergo and a community like Ergo is I guess business savvy enough to make the right decisions. So that's it. You can go on about this, but really, it's just like I said, it's all about that balance, right? It's all about the balance of the free market, and in this ecosystem, because you want permissionless, you want self-governance, you want these permissionless decentralized systems. Well, there you go. It's not, there are no banking regulations here on how much it can go up. It's all about supply and demand. If you're going to, if it'll go up as much as people will pay for it, that's how the free market works.
Yeah.
And it goes the other way too. It will go down as much as it takes for the chain to stay alive, because that's how the market works. If there's no demand for a high-priced and overpriced. I mean, like, look, if if Ergo decides to charge like $10 a mint, right, $20 a mint, that's not going to work. It's not competitive. So yeah, it's just business. All right, let's see. Okay, here's an interesting question here. What is being done about hash rate spikes and the time it takes for the difficulty to adjust accordingly? Still lagging some when big hash jumps to the network.
Yeah, I would say that the difficulty adjustment update certainly was not perfect, and to be honest, I would know, because I was kind of part of the proposal of let's speed up our current one. It's one of these things where I would love to see proposals, right, for new difficulty adjustments. It's kind of hard in a way coming, like, if I look back at the merge, even before the merge, I was kind of proposing something very, very similar to what we did, absent some, I guess, percentage that Alex added on. But it was very difficult, because you're coming from like this environment where the Ethereum Foundation basically screwed over all the miners, right? And Ergo, we would love for miners to build a new difficulty adjustment, propose that, implement it without even needing our permission, right? That would be the optimal solution, but that's sometimes very hard to do. It's hard to get that type of engagement. The same thing is true with like the miner fees. And so I've always said, hey, if there's a good proposal, that has some legs, I would, even personally help fund it, right? The question is, time, resources. Ergo Foundation is not that big, right? It would be good to have some community support in that. If sometimes it's difficult to be like, hey, us, the Ergo Foundation is going to impose, this on miners and, accept it. That's kind of where, we saw how that ended with Ethereum, is the bottom line. And then on the other side, a lot of the times people existed within that like relationship with the core developers at the Ethereum Foundation, and and it's something they support. They want that, like, hey, take care of us, right? And it's hard. I don't think we found a balance yet. I don't think that the difficulty adjustment is perfect by any means. Again, because I was part of proposing the change that was made, right? I understand it's not perfect, but also, yeah, I'm out of my depth there. Like, I would love to see, some support, consensus, and change there. That miner support, right? That's the point of having miner-driven governance. So, what's being done? Well, I can say, hey, I'll throw some money that way. We have raffle. We have a lot of different ways for the community to support the development side of it, and then it's ultimately up to miners to decide, right? I don't have enough hash rate to force that. Like, sometimes I think people forget that. We do actually try to give miners the tools to govern the system, and so let's see. I think that as the ecosystem matures, it's my hope that miners really do start taking control of the different parameters, and you get more kind of economic forecasting in terms of what changes are beneficial, and you get short-term potential changes if we ever got into a situation like Bitcoin is in now, to where they have a lot of levers they can potentially pull and optimize the system based on the current on-chain and off-chain positions, right? If they ever needed to potentially increase the security subsidy, I do think that raising fees a little bit makes sense, and you can do that without asking anybody. It's really a beautiful design. Now, if you were to say, okay, what would that require? It would require majority consensus. It would require some kind of fork. Is that messy? Yeah, but if the demand's there and miners support it, great. Like, take as much power there as you can. I think that saying from Alex is very true. Sometimes it's just, everybody then looks to him and says, okay, well, this is what I want, do it. And then it's like more pressure or responsibility. And the poor guy's already juggling 20 different things. So let's see. I'm not totally satisfied with it. It has stabilized block time a little bit, which is good. But in terms of the, migrating pools, yeah, that's not optimal. It's really not. Hopefully we see something better.
Yeah, I wasn't a part of that whole thing, but I remember the stress and the memes that you would send me during that time.
It was, I proposed something in early 2021 that was very similar to, what actually got implemented post-merge. But it was like, hey, miners, this is an idea. I think it would help. But, maybe I should have been more vocal. It's my mistake. But at the same time, I've always actually hoped that, miners really take over, do their own thing, right? I think that would be a sign of maturity in our ecosystem. So I would support that. I'd be happy to see it. There's been a couple of different really, really raw proposals, but I haven't seen anything like mature enough to the point where it can be implemented. And, it sucks sometimes because then you get like, I guess people in the video mining community that are like, oh, they don't care. And it's like, well, shit. It's like, I thought this was supposed to be a decentralized ecosystem. We have how many people at the Ergo Foundation? 6? Come on. That's a big engineering task, but I would love to support it. If anybody actually wants to push a solution to the point where it's mature enough to actually be implemented. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the ecosystem that would love to play with it, test it, and push for that. So do it.
I to tell you the truth, I mean, maybe you told me at some point, but even I don't know exactly how many people are in the Ergo Foundation. That privileged information? It sounds
small. It's quite small. You come from IOG, and I don't even know how many people there are, at any given point, but I would say a much, much, much larger factor.
Hundreds, several hundred.
Yeah. So we're tiny in comparison. And I think relative to size and cost, we've done pretty good in terms of conservative burn and actual production. If you look at the Ergo Foundation's allocation, a lot of the times applications will, come to the market in larger chains with, more of a war chest than we've had to build an entire network. And our biggest expense has been, paying other exchanges so they'll list Ergo, which is ridiculous, but state of the state, man.
Well, if you're not careful, we're going to end up in the Binance innovation section, the innovation section. That's when they don't delist, they put you in the innovation section now.
Yeah, that just means watch trade harder. It's a fucking joke.
But it's so funny, how these guys, the guys with the money, we're trying to kind of change that paradigm, but still we got these guys with the most money basically telling us how it is and doing whatever the fuck they want. Pepe is innovation. Where's the innovation? The innovation of rugging people? Like the innovation of becoming somebody else's exit liquidity? Like what is the innovation? Where is it? But then, it's like, that's the nature of the business. And I think it's actually for the best. I think it is for the best. I mean, right now it is difficult for us because sexes are still kind of the most accepted way of getting from fiat to crypto. DEXs are not, you can't do that with DEXs. There are no decentralized on-off ramps. There's a couple, but, no mass adopted ones. And they just make it so difficult. It's basically, I think it's coming to a factor of where it's because they're making it so like monopolized and difficult that it's going to just buckle on itself. Because a lot of these guys, I mean, it's just not gonna be sustainable. The industry is gonna grow and is gonna find its way into the DEXs, and people are not gonna want to pay $1 million to get something listed on a major centralized exchange. And that model is it's not sustainable.
I would love to. I'll be honest. Like, I would love to disrupt the exchanges in this space. The biggest difficulty right now is just on and off ramps, right? If you have the ability to move from the banking system into the crypto space, there's value in that. And right now that's kind of a limited access. So that's ultimately what you're paying for. If there's ever a solution to transmit value from, the traditional banking system into decentralized environments directly, they're dead. What's the point?
Yeah. It's I'm waiting for that day. I think it's the natural progression of things. This is not sustainable. It's gonna break because, I mean, it's gonna break just because of the regulators. Because these regulators are and there are some good centralized exchanges out there that I have dealt with. There are a few, select few, but there are a few. And these guys are getting attacked too. I mean, Bittrex. I was saying that the other day. Bittrex is a good team. I mean, they're one of the good ones, I think. And they're an OG exchange. They are one of the good ones. I worked with Bill on listing ADA, and just the fact that the SEC dealt them like that is complete bullshit. It's just complete bullshit. And this regulatory environment that is being created out there is just not sustainable for these big centralized exchanges anymore. I don't think it is.
No, I think the best thing that for crypto is probably some sort of change in party. And, we do tend to see the pendulum in the United States. So let's see. But yeah, there was also some big market makers that announced they were no longer going to operate in the U.S. So I imagine that trend, away from the United States is going to continue until, there's a more supportive policy. So let's see.
Well, Right now we're dealing with funds on the Zengate side, raising funds for Palmyra. And this is something that is just reoccurring over and over again. When even, funds located in the U.S. will tell you, don't raise in the U.S. Don't launch in the U.S. Stay out of the U.S. Because in the U.S. really just even dealing with qualified investors is still dangerous. A lot of right now, actually, a lot of funds and a lot of VCs will not touch you if you there's quite a few token sale practices that they basically will just blacklist you because they don't want to deal with this SEC bullshit in the US. So if you have US customers, it's going to be very difficult for you to deal with any kind of getting any kind of qualified or professional investor funding. This is literally we keep hearing it over and over again. What do we do? Well, step one, don't do anything in the US. Step two, remember step one. It's just how it is.
How it is.
Anyway, let's see. All right. Well, I think we're going to end on a couple of really nice questions. Like, for example, here the question is, when ATL Armeanio beard?
All-time low?
Yeah.
Is that shave or is that all-time long? I don't understand.
All-time long, I think. All-time low would make sense.
I don't know, man. I can't go ZZ top. I work with power tools. That seems dangerous.
Well, you can have a Texas goatee and still, be able to maintain safety. I
don't know. You whipping around a drill down here with a long beard, that seems like a bad recipe for a haircut.
Yeah, that's true. All right, and there's a question for me. How late is Dan today? Dan is going to have another one of those late nights tonight, guys. It's already 11:10 p.m. here, and I still have a few hours of work left. So, I think, you know what, Joe? I think actually, with that said, I think it's a good place to call it a scene, scene, and and sign off and thank everyone for the awesome questions. Thanks for joining the AMA. My apologies for not, showing my beautiful face today. You get to see my beautiful photo that I took actually by the wall of the Cardano office. The funny thing is that right now we rented that office for Zengate, the original Cardano office, because it's in Osaka. It's about 30 minutes away from my house. And I just realized I'm looking at this photo. This photo was taken right next to a wall that I sit at right now. I'm literally sitting right there where that photo was taken. And that photo was taken like 7 years ago, and I've been using that photo as my professional photo for like everything. So anyway, you get to see that beautiful photo. You get to see Armeanio's beautiful beard. And so I guess we'll call it a night tonight, and we will be seeing you same time, same channel next week.
Yeah, I'm out of coffee, everybody. I'm getting a refill. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.